Welcome everyone. Welcome to the coaches webinar for rhythmic gymnastics. Hello, hello. I'm very happy to be with you here. We, as a TC, have organized this webinar to be with the coaches today before the World Championships, to tell you our analysis from the season of competitions, where we could see explanations for you that can create blocks or inquiries coming from the coaches. And we want all to be prepared for the benefit of the gymnasts before the World Championships. Today, I will be presenting the presentation for difficulty, individuals and groups, on behalf of the technical committee. And Marie Multobak will be presenting the artistry, because we believe artistry is a major role in the new code of points. All the presentations have been posted on STS yesterday. This is full presentations of the World Championships for the coaches and the judges, where the judges will not go and listen to the presentations in the World Championships. They will have enough and sufficient time to check the presentations and learn before going, and there we will have more time for practicing together. For the coaches, I urge you please also to check the STS. In case you have any questions, you will find the answers you want. This is a smaller version of the presentations presented, but you will have the full presentations with more clips and more explanations in STS. I thank you on behalf of the TC for taking the time and joining us today for the love of our sport. Marie, you can start by the artistry when everyone is fresh and ready to listen for us.
Thank you so much, Noha. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias, dobrý den, konbanwa. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to talk with you coaches, and I hope this is just the first time of many. We should never forget that we are all here for the athletes, and I'm sure that if we cooperate closely, then the athletes will benefit. So we start the presentation today with artistry, and the goals for the artistry part are for you to understand why some artistry components that your gymnasts perform are not convincing, confusing the judges, hesitating, and that sometimes blocks the artistry score. We'll look closer at character, dance steps, and effects. Point 2 of this presentation is for you to understand why the artistry scores might be lower than you want them. And the last part is just some advice for you for your last preparations for the World Championships. Some ideas how you can support the athletes towards the best possible artistry scores. So before we go into the technical details, I want you coaches to know that I feel a great responsibility towards you and your athletes, because we know that the coaches understand the soul and the spirit of rhythmic gymnastics. Some of you were great athletes yourself in the past. Some of you were great coaches in the past. So you know how to work with music, how to let the gymnasts develop their artistic qualities. We also know that you coaches are responsible for securing the best possible results for your athletes. And the code of points and the judging dictates those results. So I can understand that you sometimes struggle if you feel that these 2 points don't go hand in hand. And that's where the technical committee has a great responsibility. We have to set the code of points and the judging standards right. The judging and the scoring should encourage you to prioritize artistry. It should justify all the time that you spend choosing music, creating compositions. And it should justify that you give feedback to the athletes, that you push them to work on the timing with the music, to work on character, to present with expression, and so on. So if you feel that difficulty always triumphs artistry, then I can understand that you struggle to prioritize. And that leads me to the first topic that we want to discuss, understanding why the artistry scores may be lower than you would like to see. So we know that this code is very demanding. And I'm sure you already know what kind of components you're trying to fit into the routine. And we expect this to be performed with character, with expression, with musicality. And of course, we want perfect execution. And all of this to be done in 90 seconds. So I think you're quite crazy just to try this project. And I applaud you for trying this. But I want to ask you, are these really requirements? Or are they opportunities? Could you think of this list as an opportunity for you to prioritize what benefits your athlete the most? Actually, these are the real requirements of the code. We don't force you to put 35 to 40 difficulties in the routine. That's your choice. And maybe that's the best solution for your gymnast. Maybe for your gymnast, it's best to string 35 to 40 difficulties one after the other, never mind what the music does. Or maybe at least for your gymnast, it's better not to try the dynamic changes. Just keep the tempo up and make sure you fit in all the difficulties that you'd like. On the other hand, maybe your athlete is not physically prepared to do all of this. Maybe her health situation doesn't let her do all those difficulties. And then maybe for her, it's better that you allow her to focus more on artistry and to show her best sides through the artistry. Maybe that can help her develop in a better direction and feel more confident. So these priorities are, of course, yours. We just want to remind you that when you think difficulty, you often lose points in artistry. You have every right to squeeze in these difficulty components into the routine. But doing that without sacrificing the artistry, I think you need to be beyond genius. So more realistic is that you prioritize the components that let your gymnast demonstrate her best qualities. Possible consequences if you decide to think mainly about difficulty. And we see this happening through this season. If you increase the tempo to fit in another DA, your gymnast will have several elements performed off the accents, and you will have rhythm penalties, 0-1 each time. The music might slow down, but you decide for the gymnast to maintain the movement tempo, to be fast, to fit more difficulty elements into the routine. For this, you lose points for rhythm. You also potentially have missing dynamic changes, which can cost up to 1 point if it's for a group. You push the last difficulty to the very end of the routine to have maximal contents, and that often leads the gymnast to end after the music. This costs 0.5 point in artistry. And when you give your feedback to your gymnast, if you focus only on being fast, rotating more, fixing the balances, doing the amplitude, and so on, of course, the gymnast becomes less attentive to presenting the character, her expression, performing the connections well, and so on. And for this, you know that we also penalize in artistry. I could go on, but you know this theory. Just reminding you that by trading the accents and the connections and the character for adding more difficulty will cost you points in artistry. So it's a technical committee responsibility to allow you to make these priorities according to the strengths and possibilities of your athlete. It's our responsibility that your athlete's score on each component reflects your educated priorities. If you do what's best for your athlete, she should score well on those components that you prioritize. And we know that your previous experiences could be that difficulty usually triumphs artistry. We know. And we understand if you feel that it's safer to maximize the difficulty contents right now. We just hope that you also understand that when you prioritize difficulty, there are consequences for the artistry score. And we hope that you respect that the artistry judging needs to leave space on the scoring scale. On our 10 points of artistry, we need to leave space to fully award and make a significant difference for any routine that manages to balance artistry with difficulty, or even prioritizes artistry above difficulty. This should also be your possibility as a coach to prioritize artistry. And our judging of artistry needs to give room for that and to honor that. So if you today cannot say that the performance of your athletes balances artistry with difficulty or prioritizes artistry, then I hope that you don't expect to have near perfect artistry scores. Next part of this presentation is to understand why some artistry components are not convincingly performed and sometimes block the score. And this part is from the judges' instructions that you will find on STS. The parts we've chosen for you coaches today is character, dance steps, and effects. Character. First, let's revisit what character is. Character is a guiding idea through the routine. It's the details, it's the spice or the flavor that you add to all the technical elements. These details should be specific to the style of the music. And these details on the different technical elements should fit together, creating a unified image for the whole routine. Let's take the time to look at an example of character dances from one of the world's best ballet schools. So I hope you saw that these moves are not just technical ballet moves. They are styled with details, with the legs, with the feet, with arms, with hands, using the trunk in different directions, using the neck and the head in different directions, and even the face is involved in creating this character for this dance that all these ballerinas performed. So character is not just to perform with a high tempo or to perform an energetic routine or to have a smiley gymnast. Character needs to be composed into the routine. It's all these little details that you add to the technical elements that we want to see and that we evaluate as character. I want to give you one little alternative approach to character. Think of a room, your living room, and you have furniture in there. This is your difficulty components. It's all in there. You can sit down, you can take a coffee, but it's not very comfortable or cozy, right? Comparing to this living room that we have styled with a lot of details. You may like this style or not like this style for judges. That's not a question. Judges just identify that the style is fully developed in this room or in your composition. Unfortunately, in many competitions this year, what we see is this type of room. You have a few little details, but we cannot say that there is a developed style or a developed character in this room. Let's add some more details to this room, and we are starting to see a unified image in this room. I hope this helps in thinking how you can add details to your composition to create a solid character for the routine for your gymnast. Now I want to talk to you about this pose. We could talk about any pose, but this very pose is now one of the most popular ones in rhythmic gymnastics. And you know why, for the DAs. And the question is, if we have this pose in the routine, does it mean that we have character? Is this flexed foot enough in the routine so that we judges don't take 1 point penalty, but we take half a point? So the truth is that this type of pose could create character. Sometimes it does, but that depends on the music and on the other details that you have in the routine. So, for example, if you combine this pose with what we'll see in this clip, then we're starting to see a unified character. Let's see the short clip. So there is unity between these character details. On the other hand, if we combine with this pose with the arm and the hand, there is no unity in these two poses. It doesn't create a solid character. So for the judges to identify character, one isolated detail is not enough. We need to see a harmony between the different details in the routine and the style of the music. And I'll give you an overview of the possibilities to penalize. We take no penalty if there are many details that are in harmony throughout the whole routine. When there is a variety in the use of the body, for example, not just arm movements, but also using the trunk, the feet, the legs, the face, the head. And when there is a variety in the types of elements that have character, for example, not only in the connections between the elements, but also in some of the difficulties, in some of the choices of rotational elements and so on. In this case, we have the possibility to take no penalty at all for character. And here is an example of a timeline for a routine with a lot of details that are united. 0.3 penalty is quite similar. The only difference is that the details are present in the majority of the routine. So there could be some shorter sequences missing character in some elements. In that case, the penalty would be 0.3. But we also expect for 0.3 penalty to see a variety in the use of the body and the types of elements that have character. 0.5 penalty is taken when there is harmony between some details and the music. Let's see this timeline. So you have a few details and they work well together and they work with the music. That's for 0.5 penalty. Whereas 1 point penalty is when there is no harmony between eventual details and the music. There could be two details, one flexed foot and one strong arm, but when there is no harmony between them and a strong relation to the music, we don't see this as a unified character, and we take 1 point penalty. Let's move to the dance steps. These are all the requirements that you already know from the code. And these are all the problems that sometimes occur, leading to not valid dance steps. And I would like to remind everyone that inside your dance steps, it is possible to have DA, it's possible to have CC collaborations. Those are now permitted in the dance steps. However, they cannot compromise any of the requirements for dance steps. Sorry, I'm not sure that I'm controlling the keyboard right now. We'll find the right place, don't worry. So if you have DA or CC inside the dance step, that needs to be performed without interruption, with defined character throughout, including in the DA and in the CC, needs to be performed in harmony with the rhythm, and so on. Now we will look closer at the requirement of character, and we will see some examples. As I mentioned, the defined character should be present throughout the 8 seconds. If the character is interrupted, for example, for a few seconds to perform an apparatus element, then the dance steps is not identified. Judges might penalize for missing dance step. Let's see the first clip. So these dance steps have character throughout. We accept these dance steps. Let's see the next. These dance steps we do not recognize. The first part is well performed with character, but towards the end, some gymnasts are running to the back and they are running without any character. I will play this one more time for you right now. And please keep in mind, all of these clips you can also review on STS after this presentation. Good. Let's see a few more examples and try to identify whether they have character throughout or whether the character is interrupted. Yes, this is 8 seconds. It's performed in rhythm. It has character throughout, traditional folk dances, and we as judges identify these dance steps. Same thing here, clear character throughout, matching the style of the music, and we identify the dance steps.
I'm gonna fight them all. A seven-nation army couldn't hold me then. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind.
These dance steps actually have several attempts of DA elements, performed with turning of the body, vertical rotations. But all of those rotations are performed with some details with character. And therefore we can identify these dance steps as valid. I will play it for you one more time. And please take a close look at the vertical rotations and the details that are added to them. Sorry, this is the next clip.
I'm gonna fight them all. A seven-nation army couldn't hold me then. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind.
So in summary, we are looking to see this type of details for character, even during the DAs that you put inside the dance steps. Let's see the next clip. So the first part is well performed with character and in a rhythm, but the last part, the rotation of the hoop on the neck, is performed without clear character and without matching the rhythm. So in this clip, we do not identify the dance steps. These dance steps also are not interrupted. They're fluent, but there are parts here without character. And therefore, the yes, dance steps not identified. This clip also starts with very nice dancing with character in rhythm, but she performs a DA in a pivot without any kind of character and also moving to the floor without clear character. So that interrupts the dance steps. In this clip, there is also great character in the first part, but towards the end, there is a long roll that is off rhythm and performed without character. And for this reason, these dance steps are not identified. So these gymnasts, of course, they might have two other dance steps, and in that case, we don't penalize. But if this is one of their two dance steps, then they're missing one valid dance step and they will have a penalty. Last topic from the judges' instructions is effects. So let us remind you what an effect is. It's something memorable. It's a highlight in the routine. It's something that the audience will remember. So we will be telling the judges that they don't need to worry to bring their magnifying glass or their binoculars. If they didn't find any effect in the routine by watching the routine normally, then the effect is probably not valid. Because a real effect, it should present itself to us. We shouldn't be searching for it. Let's revisit the purpose of an effect, because we know that there is some confusion to this topic. According to the code, an effect should emphasize a specific moment in the music. and it should contribute to the original relationship between specific music and specific movements. So an effect is always based on a significant musical moment. That means you can have a very spectacularly difficult, complex, original element, but if it's not matched to a specific musical moment, then we do not recognize it as an effect according to this code of points. Effects need to be matched with one or more accents, with a special phrase in the music, or something like this. The code of points says that both simple and complex movements can create an effect. However, it also says that the effect should have maximum impact and be recognizable. And so let's start by looking at the complex type of movements. A very spectacular or unique movement, very difficult element, can be emphasized by a less significant or unique musical moment. But the musical moment still needs to be very clear and recognizable. And music, movement need to be perfectly timed. So here's an example where you see a difficult and spectacular movement matched with a clear but not unique musical moment, because this musical accent exists many places in the music, but it's still recognizable when they perform their collaboration with throws. Let's see. So you see the double throw with the big jump match perfectly with the major accent, becomes an effect. Let's now look at the simple movements and how those could create an effect. If we have a very significant or unique musical moment, this can be emphasized by a simple movement. So a movement that is not very difficult, maybe not innovative, but it should still be large, clear, noticeable, and it must be perfectly timed. So in the next clip, you will hear a musical moment that is unique to this music. It exists only this one time, and you cannot ignore this musical moment. And you see a movement that is not very difficult, not very original, but it's perfectly timed to this accent. And altogether, they do create an effect. That's memorable. Good. So let's see a few more examples. Let's start with the complex movements. So there is a very difficult element with the body and the apparatus, and it's matched to a very specific moment in the music where the piano goes very, very fast. These two fit perfectly together, and this is a clear effect. Next clip. So I recognize that video quality on Zoom and maybe my Wi-Fi, maybe your Wi-Fi, could cause some mismatch between the video and the music. But please go to SDS and watch this again later, and you will see that the big accent that appears in the music is perfectly timed with this very spectacular catch, one gymnast on the back of the other gymnast. So this, even though the musical moment is not unique, the body movement and apparatus movement is so specific and special that together it becomes an effect. The next clip shows exactly the same movement, but with different timing. So probably in this clip, this group was late. because we heard the musical effect, the musical moment, very large and clear, but nothing special happened. And then half a second later, we have this spectacular catch. So this is no effect, because the movement and the music are not perfectly matched. Last clip. Similar situation to the previous clip, very interesting and difficult element. But on this performance, it was not matched with a noticeable specific moment in the music. And therefore, in this clip, it's no effect. In another competition, the timing might be different. You might notice that it's performed matching the musical accents on a specific moment, and then it might become an effect. Let's see some more simple movements. This is also an effect. The movements that are performed, this little pose and jumping out of it, is not very complex or difficult, but the musical moment is really unique. And please notice, it's not the point that the voice says photo. That's not what we're evaluating here. We hear a unique pause in the music. We hear a clear musical accent, and this is perfectly matched by the gymnast. And altogether, it becomes an effect. Yes, so we hear a very clear and strong musical accent. And we see the arm that is perfectly timed with this musical accent. And that's good because she will not take a rhythm penalty for this. But this arm doesn't create an effect. It's too small a movement to create a lasting impression that is memorable for the audience. Last clip. So this is an R, and it's matched nicely to the accents of the music. Chinese on some accents, and then the next rotational elements on some other accents. All fits well together. But the musical moment is not so clear, not so strong and noticeable. And the movement is also not that spectacular or difficult. So altogether, it doesn't create a lasting memory as an effect. Next part of effects is to look at possibilities of using body difficulties as effects. And the expectation for the body difficulties in rhythmic gymnastics is to be performed correctly on music, on the accents, in rhythm, correctly on the phrase changes, and so on, like this. So you saw her fauteuil balance, her 3 accents matched the musical accents correctly. She has the correct tempo and the correct timing for this music. That's good. No rhythm penalty, but no effect. On the other hand, if difficulties are performed between the accents or off the rhythm, in the wrong tempo or disrespecting phrase changes of the music, then it could look like this. So what you saw now was exactly the same video. And of course, I've played with the timing on some of these clips. I'm not telling you in which way, but you can tell that there is a difference. One fauteuil balance performed correctly on the accent, the other one performed probably too late between the accent. and that causes a rhythm penalty. On the other hand, if the body difficulty is performed correctly on specific and unique accents on musical highlights of the routine, like this clip that we already saw. This is one way to create an effect with a body difficulty on specific and unique accents, musical highlights. So let's see some examples. And I want to let you know that some of these gymnasts are competing in the World Championship, and we want to recognize that they are performing very well to the music, even though we might not recognize their effects. Okay, so the first balance, perfectly timed with the accent, even a little ding there, but it's not a highlight of the routine. No rhythm penalties, very nicely performed, but not an effect.
Those who don't have lose, those who got get given more.
Similar situation, she starts the pivot correctly, performs it in the correct tempo, hits all the 4 musical accents belonging to the words more. But this is not a unique moment. We have these more many times in the routine, and it's not very noticeable at this specific point. But well-timed, no rhythm penalties. We will see the same pivot with the same music, but a different timing.
Don't have lose, those who got get given more.
So in this clip, she has the correct tempo, but her movement accents and the music accents do not match. She starts the pivot too late for the music, and that becomes a rhythm penalty. So this is correct timing of the big explosive jump with a unique musical highlight. This accent that we heard in the voice comes up only this place. It's very noticeable, it's memorable, and it becomes a valid effect. These leaps too, correctly performed leaps, very good job to time those 3 leaps with the clear accents of the words fever. But these musical moments, these words do not stand out, and they are not unique to these leaps. There is a lot of fevers in the sentence, in the music. So altogether, it does not become a highlight, a noticeable effect. But well done to work correctly with the music, all of these gymnasts. Last part of effects is about gestures and lyrics, because there has been some confusion as to how we could create effects. So you know that an effect combines the audio or the musical components with the visual or the gymnastics components. And these musical components that we typically speak of are accents, phrases, rhythm and tempo, and so on. They are not the lyrics or the song text. And that would be very complicated for the judge because we do not speak all languages of the world. Also, those gymnastics components, they are our difficulties, our dance steps, our connections, and so on. They are not theater or gestures. Let's see a few examples. So this gymnast uses the gesture with the fingers to the eye to say, I see you. and that's not an effect. Maybe it fits in the theme of the music, maybe it helps build the character, but we do not recognize this as an effect.
I'll bring you coffee with a kiss on your head.
In this video, we hear that he brings her coffee. She does the coffee with her ball. She shows the kiss on the hand, matching the lyrics nicely, but this is not an effect. Effects are not made to the lyrics. They are made to the accents or the phrases and so on. So this gymnast has a nice little microphone. That's very cute. It helps build the character, but it's not an effect. So all of these types of cultural signs, gestures, mimicking what the lyrics say, that's not recognized as an effect. But of course, it's not forbidden to use them in the routine. All of these are fine, but not valid as effects. So that was the part of this presentation that is from the judge's instructions. And you can go back to STS and review that later if you want more examples, more details. The last little piece of this presentation is just some advice for you, how you could support your athletes towards the best possible artistry scores in this World Championship. Because with this presentation and with showing you these examples and clarifications, it's not our intention to ask you to go back now to the gym and start changing compositions. That's probably not advisable, but of course the decision is yours. So what we would like to do now is just to give you some ideas for your next training sessions, how you can help your gymnast emphasize artistry without changing the compositions. So one idea is to encourage the gymnast to stick to the musical accents, to present her character details clearly, exaggerate them, that she underlines the dynamic changes that you have choreographed in the routine, make the tempo changes super clear, and make her understand the importance of finishing the routine with the music to avoid half a point penalty. It's also possible for you to discuss with your gymnast how it's best to react if there is a big interruption. If she has to run for 5-10 seconds to get the apparatus, what should be her priorities in the last part of the routine? You decide whether she should speed up and make sure she does all the difficulties that she lost, or whether she should compose herself, find the right moment in the music, continue with rhythm, with character, performing her connections, and so on. At least have that discussion, what to do. Slightly more technical items, please check that if your dance steps have DAs or CCs, that these are performed with some details of character. And I hope you understand now, we are looking for those little tweaks to the body moves, some change of the position of the hand, trunk, leg, whatever you can come up with to underline the identity of the music and the idea of the routine, even in the DAs. And please double check that no type of throw or catch is performed 4 times or more. This is for the individual gymnasts. They will be penalized 0-3 if they have 4 of the same throw or 4 of the same catch, even for the simple catches of the balls, catches of the ribbon. Of course, it could be your strategy that you will have 8 identical catches and you're taking the penalty because that's more comfortable for the gymnast. That's fine. But if you want to avoid that penalty, please check. And if you're unsure, you can always ask a judge to check. Good. A few concluding remarks for artistry. We do recognize the work that you're already doing with artistry. We do not force you to develop artistry further. That priority is yours. But we, with the code of points and the scoring, we wish to give you room to adjust your priorities further towards artistry than you are today. If you would like to, and if you see that this could benefit your athlete. And for that reason, I hope that you will respect the judges and the TC's work in evaluating the routines that you're performing now with the priorities you've made now, and that we do need to give room for routines that have even further emphasis on artistry. We as a TC work to ensure that the judges know our expectations and that they are confident to take the relevant artistry penalties when that's needed. So together, you coaches, TC and judges, we determine what image rhythmic gymnastics will have in the future. What you choose to prioritize in the routine influences our image, and how the code of points and the judging honors what you prioritize in the routines determines our image for the future. If you need more information on the artistry judging, if you want to see parts of this presentation again, please go to STS. The address is at the bottom of this slide. It's now possible for anyone to sign up and create an account and check all the material that this technical committee and the previous technical committee have prepared and posted on STS. It costs very little compared to the quality material that you will be receiving. So that ends the artistry part of this webinar. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you best of luck with the next step towards the World Championships.
Thank you, Marie, so much for the presentation. And thank you to the coaches, because I see they are coming in and in and in. So I'm very happy to be with you. Just a small information, because we have a question here. Is the webinar going to be recorded? Yes, it is recorded, and it will be on the YouTube channel of the FIG within 5 to 10 days, because it needs some editing and corrections for the YouTube. However, if you wish to see the whole presentations, you can go, like Marie explained, to the STS and watch the whole presentations by yourself and watch the videos again.